Guys, what's going on? So today I actually have a special guest that's going to that's going to pop in with us and talk. Any of you people you guys that have been watching me for any length of time, you know that I talk a lot about a condition called type 2 diabetes that affects a large percentage of the population, not only in the United States, but all over the world. So as of last count, and again, these numbers I'm getting are from this right off the CDC website. 11% of the adult population in the United States today has been diagnosed with type 2 with diabetes. 95% of those people are type 2 diabetes, right? And then the rest would be type 1. But there's millions and millions and millions of more people that are undiagnosed, or what you might call pre-diabetic, which I would contend is actually diabetic, because the trouble has already started. You're already in trouble. If you go to a doctor and he tells you that you're pre-diabetic, um, you have to make changes, because the trouble is already starting, because this is something that you don't just flip a switch overnight and become pre-diabetic. It builds up. It's like compound interest when you put your money in the bank. All right. 88%, that's almost 9 out of 10 of us have some type of metabolic sickness that is going to lead right into a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. I've talked ad nauseum about the obesity rate today. 75% of adults in the US are considered overweight or obese. With that obesity comes conditions like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease. Um, and what I've said too previously is that a lot of people look at it as, well, I'm a diabetic, I have high blood pressure, I have kidney disease, like all these conditions are separate and apart. I like to refer to it as the octopus, right? And the head of it is chronically high insulin, which leads into the type 2 diabetes, but the tentacles are things like heart disease, kidney disease, the neuropathy, damaging of the nerves, just on and on and on. All of these other conditions uh, that people look at as separate conditions, as if they have nothing to do with each other, but they're all intertwined. Now, I know for a fact that any of you watching me, if you're not pre-diabetic, if you're not diabetic, if you don't have some type of metabolic sickness, you have family members, you have friends, you know plenty of people that are affected by all of these conditions. I've told this story many times before, how my mother died literally in my arms as a result of liver and heart disease. Uh, my brother, thank God with my brother, we were able to reverse it. My grandfather, again, countless friends, co-workers, acquaintances, it's everywhere. And unfortunately, I have a very dear friend of mine who's going to talk to us today, who was recently diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic. Usually, the course of action is, if you go to a doctor and you're diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic, the first thing they're going to do is give you a pill, and it's usually metformin, something along those lines. Very little nutritional advice. Usually it's just, don't eat eggs, cut back on your sugar, try and lose a little bit of weight, and come back in 3 months. And that is, to say the least, that's a flawed way to go about it, because you need to make some drastic changes, seriously drastic changes. All that said, my friend Mark, like I said, he agreed to talk to us today. He was just to the doctor. He was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. He's decided to forego any type of medication and reverse this with diet, nutrition, and lifestyle changes. And I'm going to be there along the road with him. And I firmly believe that we're going to be able to do this. So I'm going to bring him in now. We'll talk a little bit about his story and how we're going to go about this. What's up, brother?
Hey Vin, how
How
are
you
you?
doing? All right.
Good.
Thanks for being here, man. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for talking to us today.
anytime.
So let's start. You called me the other day and you said, hey, I got some blood work back and I got some bad news. And what exactly did you find?
Right. Well, I was coming up on a yearly physical, So, I think it was January 15th. I actually went for the blood work because I had my appointment on the 22nd. So I wanted to have the blood work results for the doctor so we could talk about, the results. So I was shocked. Now what happened was the results got emailed to me. Like I think that same day, which was surprising enough. And when I looked at it, I was completely shocked that my A1C was 7.7, and my fasting glucose was, I think it was like 171. So those
Okay.
numbers,
Let me,
I had never seen
Mark.
those numbers.
Let me just stop you right there. So, guys, so his A1C, that's the HbA1c test, and really what that is the average of your blood sugar over the course of the past 3 months. And what that equates to is, now I'm going to do it for you guys that are in Europe. I can do an approximate translation, but a 7.7 means that Mark's, if he were to measure his blood sugar in milligrams per deciliter every day over the past 3 months, it would have been about 174. Okay, and for you guys in Europe, I believe that would come out to about a 9.7 average blood sugar over the past 3 months. So that's where he stood when he got his results. So go ahead, Mark.
Right. So first thing I did was call you because of your knowledge and experience with this, with the high blood sugar. Because at this point I was so shocked, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it with my doctor. If he wanted, if he may have wanted to put me on medicine right away, which from talking to you in the past, I knew was not the route that I wanted to take. So the way it wound up, I had my physical. We talked about the results of the blood sugar. And, surprisingly, the doctor wasn't so shocked as I was shocked because my A1C was normally like below 6. Maybe once it was a little bit above 6, like 6.1. But a 7.7, it really, it frightened me. So I said to the doctor, is it possible for me to try and eat more healthy? Like I just picked a number that I thought was appropriate. Like I said, we'll test my blood again in 4 months. Like, could I do that? And he agreed. He said, yeah, you can try to do that. But, if the results aren't coming back lower, he's like, you need to go on medicine at that time. So right now I'm in the process of eating extremely healthy, not having any sugar really at all, trace amounts. I would have to say, um, and it's kind of funny because after the holidays, I decided to go on a diet on my own. And I thought I was doing well. I had dropped 5 or 6 pounds by, mid January. I thought I was doing well. And then after talking to you, I realized, what I was really putting in my body with the white rice and the potatoes and all the carbs. And still, I was having pizza once in a while, but I was fasting. I was having 2 meals a day, sometimes one meal a day. And on the days that I had the one meal, I felt that I could splurge a little more at dinner, have a little bit of bread, have the rice, have the pasta. But now, since talking to you, I just cut all of it out and pretty much eating some protein and fat every day.
Right.
And in the last, like I say, in the last like 5 or 6 days, I've lost like a significant amount of additional weight that it seemed to have come off like more fast.
Right.
But I mean, I could talk about like, that recently with your advice, I've been testing my actual blood sugar. I don't know if you want me to get into that.
Well, yeah, because I think that's important because I stressed, and I've talked about this before on a channel, the importance, right? Knowledge is power. And in this case, you know, you have to know what certain foods do to your blood sugar. Again, I talk about, you know, you and I could eat the exact same diet every single day, the exact same amount at the exact same time. And at the end of a month, I could gain 5 pounds, you could lose 5 pounds. Everybody's physiology is different. So why I stress that with you, especially now, because, you know, we have to be really aware of what these foods are doing to you. You know, you may eat something and think to yourself, hey, this is good. It's not going to affect my blood sugar, but you're not going to know unless you test it. So that's why I stressed with you, we have to test constantly. And if you have a meal and you have a nice, maybe, you know, just it's everything we eat is going to affect our blood sugar to some degree. But if it's within reason and it comes back down, it's going to show that your body is controlling your glucose levels the right way. Then you can keep that in your diet. But if you're testing yourself after a meal and you have a really crazy spike and it stays elevated for any length of time, well, then we know that that's something that you just can't have in your diet, you know? And the
Right.
term I keep using with you is the party's over, right? You could say, well,
Right.
but I always ate this and I always like doing it.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, the you know, you flip the switch, right? And I firmly believe that we're going to get this down. We're going to get it under control. But I don't think you're never going to go back to the way you were eating. I think you could be perfectly healthy, you know, doing the right thing with your diet and nutrition moving forward. But you're not going to be able to go back. So yeah.
Right.
So now let's just back up 1 second. You were talking about some of the things that you were eating: the rice, the pasta, the you know, the potatoes, and people don't look at that as sugar. They say, well, it's rice. It's a, but it is broken down into the body as sugar, right? And
Right.
sugar is sugar. Especially when you're a diabetic or pre-diabetic, it doesn't matter where that sugar comes from, whether it comes from a bowl of rice or it comes from a candy bar, you know, or anything. You know,
Well,
it's all the same thing.
I even was explaining to you, I was pretty much eating whatever I wanted for the past year. All right. Which is not normally the way I go about things. I mean, usually mixed in there, I'll go on a diet, I'll drop 5, 10 pounds. But unfortunately, I love eating bread and butter, so I gain the weight back. This time I think I'm definitely more committed to it being more of a permanent lifestyle change. But you would not believe how much bread and butter and pizza once or twice a week. So the bread on the pizzas adding to my sugar, the bread and butter every morning for breakfast. Like I was starting to have two buttered rolls every morning, or a buttered bagel, or a bagel with cream cheese. Like the amount of bread is just phenomenal what I was actually putting into my body. So now I've stopped all of that.
Right.
So the thing that, shocked me was that I was trying to diet when January 1st came. So I was shocked by the fasting glucose number of 171. But now, since I really have clamped down on what I put in my mouth, like over the last 5 days, my fasting blood sugar, the average of the last 5 days has been 136.
That's
So
great.
I'm
That's
already
great.
seeing an improvement, you know.
Right.
So I went from 171, that for my blood work for my doctor's visit, to now a 5-day average of 136. So I'm
Okay.
I'm happy right now with the results. So I plan on just keeping it up for the next 3.5 months.
Right. And I mean, to go from a 171 to an average of 136, that's a significant drop in a matter of days, literally, right? You said it was just a matter of days that you really did
It
this.
is. It's been
Yeah.
since like the 21st of January, and it's all due to your advice.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, and you know, getting back to your bread, I think the term you used with me was that it was like your kryptonite, right? And with most people, it is. You know,
It
I
really
defy,
is.
like I've said it before, I defy you to go to a restaurant, anybody to go to a restaurant and sit at that table and they bring out that bread basket and don't touch it. You know, don't pick up a roll or don't pick up some of that Italian bread and a big chunk of butter. It's not happening. You know what I mean? It's just,
Hey, it's
it's
funny, Vin. Like some people, chocolate is their kryptonite. Other people, it's soda. With me, it just happens to be bread and butter. I just,
yeah.
you get a nice soft roll, just baked. It's
All right, back
irresistible.
up.
It's
Back up. I don't back up. I don't need you signing off now and running out to the bakery on me, okay? I got to finish this. We got to finish this interview here, all right? Just relax a little bit, okay? But seriously, when you think about the term food addiction, I mean, I think you'd agree that it really is an addiction. And you likened it to, you were a smoker for a lot of years, right?
That's right.
And it was tough to break that. And you
20,
would,
22 years,
yeah,
and I quit in 2001.
right,
And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. That's how much of a grasp nicotine had on me.
right. But would you agree that the bread and all these other processed foods, it's a similar
It is
addiction?
very similar. I don't feel that it's as difficult for me to walk away, even though I love to have cake and cookies and all that stuff. After dinner, I'm always looking for something sweet. And
Right,
now I just have a cup of black coffee. It kind of, or like I told you the other day, I grabbed a handful of blueberries
right,
for that just little bit of a sugar.
right.
But it's similar to nicotine addiction, and but for me, nicotine was worse.
Okay. All right. Well, then we should be able to kick this one then, right? I mean, if we
Yeah.
got rid of the nicotine, we should definitely be able to get rid of this one.
And
So,
Vin, like the sugar aspect of it, if you can like avoid it and eat healthier, like I'm seeing the benefits like right away. Like my pants are looser, I feel better. The nicotine withdrawal, it's not so clear cut. Like you don't see internally might be very beneficial with the nicotine, but like with the sugar, I'm seeing the results like right away.
right, right. And the thing too is, and I think we touched on this a little bit while we were talking, that um, over time, your palate will change, right?
Yeah.
So that you know, I'm not a I was a big soda drinker. Everything that you mentioned, the bread, the pot, everything, pizza, and it took a lot of time, and I don't crave it anywhere near what I used to, but it still rears its ugly head once in a while. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I've said before, I mean, no doubt, if I had a sleeve of Oreos in front of me right now and I cracked it open, there's going to be nothing left but some cellophane and a few crumbs, and I would suck up the crumbs. You know what I mean? So it's really always going to be there, you know.
But
So
you just said the key thing, if I had it in front of me.
right,
So, like I told you before, if I had rolls in the house that somebody just bought, it's much more tempting. Now, I
hmm,
just happen to have a bunch of junk food in the house, but I don't find like potato chips and or popcorn and all the stuff that I have in the house that tempting. It's the bread,
yeah.
you know.
But again, if it's readily available, like I said, like if it's right
Yeah.
on your kitchen counter,
Right.
those demons are going to come calling, no doubt. But even if you catch a craving late at night, the odds of you on a cold winter night getting in your car and driving down to the store and getting a loaf of bread, are pretty slim, right? But if
Yeah.
it's right
Yeah.
there on your counter, it's going to be, well, what's a little bite going to hurt, and then it just snowballs from there. So it really
Right.
is it accessible or not, and that's part of it. You have to set yourself up, and that's part of building new habits, right? Because that trigger, if that thing is staring you right in the face, it just makes it exponentially harder to quit it, to stay
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
from it, because it's like you said, it's calling you. It's going to be calling you.
Another thing too is like when I was younger, and the doctor would say I'm pre-diabetic, there wasn't much of an incentive to really do much about it until like recently when I got this wake up call. And that really, now it's like life and death to me. Like I really, I really believe if I just don't want to have to go on those meds.
And
From
I don't
talking to
blame you.
you and just, seeing friends and, you know,
Yeah, I firmly believe that once they get your hooks in you, and again, and this is one of the, and I've told you this over and over, uh, the medications don't cure a thing. They just, the term that the medical establishment uses is we're just gonna try and manage it. And everybody they get this false sense of security. Well, I'm taking my metformin, so I could eat anything I want because that'll bring my blood sugar down, and I'm good to go. But it's so far from the truth, and it's really hard to get it through to people. And part of it is because they're so addicted, they want to believe that, well, as long as I take my medicine, I could still eat this and everything's going to be fine, you
right,
know. But it is a slippery slope, and once you get on it, it is progressive, because if you keep doing what living the way you're living and thinking that that pill's going to help you, it's not, and you're going to get worse and worse and worse. Could take months, years, it could take a decade, but at some point you're going to get there, and then you're going to be injecting insulin, right? And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And that's what I stress to you. Um, like, we have to try and beat this without the medications. Again, I'm going to say it again and again, and I really believe from the bottom of my heart that we're going to do it. And if we can do it without the medications, because everything that you put in your mouth, every medication that you put in your mouth, there are side effects. That's the other thing. People think, well, because my doctor, he's a good doctor, and he gave me this pill, and it's not going to hurt me. There's going to be no ramifications for taking this pill. But everything that goes in your mouth, everything that goes into your body, there's ramifications. So if we can get away with not using that, even better. And by making the lifestyle changes, uh, you're benefiting your body, because, like I said, you could be taking the pills, but if you don't change your lifestyle, you're still doing the damage to your body. You're still damaging your organs over time. So yeah, and another point that you made was you didn't feel that sense of urgency when you heard the term pre-diabetes.
right. Definitely did not feel the sense of urgency. You
Right.
know, I, I mean, not only did I not fully understand what the sugar was doing and the insulin spikes were doing to my body, but the sense of urgency just wasn't there. I just said, "Oh, I have a little bit more time. I have a little bit more time." Well, guess what? The time's run out now. So
Right.
I just made up my mind that this is the way I want to attack this problem.
Right. Yeah, I liken that also, that sense of urgency that you talked about. Like, well, when you hear the word pre, I'm not diabetic. I'm not like that guy. I'm only pre, so I'm still good. I have some time, right? And
Right,
it's the
right.
same thing with people when it comes to losing weight. When I talk to people and they'll say, "No, I'm good. I just need to lose 20, 25 pounds, and then I'll be good." Because I'm not like that guy. That guy's 100 pounds overweight. I'm not as bad as him. Look at that guy. He's out of control. I'm not out of control. I just needed 20 pounds, right? So, it goes back to any facet of life. If you're a gambler, if you're a, God forbid, a drug addict or an alcoholic, people tend to not look to change until you've hit rock bottom, right? And for you, opening up that email, I guess, that you got, and seeing that 7.7, that was almost like a rock bottom for you, because now it's set in.
Yeah,
I'm sure you got that pit in your stomach and you said, "Oh shit, this is for real."
yeah. I said first thing I said, I got to get in touch with Vinny.
Well, like I said, I've been shouting from the hilltops that they pass it off uh, as a disease. It's like it's something that they'll tell you it's genetic. Um, but what people fail to realize is that it's habitual, because it's not so much genetic as if you grow up in a house with people that live a certain way, that eat a certain way, that have certain beliefs in how to live. of course that's going to become ingrained in you from an early age. So you're just going to go and do it. So if the people that reared you, that raised you, are living that way and are getting sick, you're just going to grab the torch and carry on with it.
Right,
It's not
right.
coming from it. It's not some genetic, especially, type 2 diabetes. I'll go to my grave swearing up and down that it's a lifestyle condition that we eat and drink ourselves into. And I think right now, even within a week, within a week, I think you're starting to prove that you can eat and drink your way out of it.
Yeah.
And that's our goal, and we spoke about that. I talk about how widespread this diet, and really, it really is a pandemic. When you talk about a pandemic, I mean the sickness that's going on. But you went to your doctor, and your doctor is giving you advice on treating type 2 diabetes. So tell everybody a little bit about your doctor's condition.
Well, he let me in on his own personal situation. Now, I'm 60. I'm going to be 61 next month. So my doctor just so happens to be 61 and is a diabetic and is on the, metformin and all of that.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, it's interesting to me when I started explaining to him that I had this best friend of mine I grew up with, and he's really into health, and so he kind of advised me on everything, and was telling me about like how the body, how the pancreas makes insulin, and the inflammation that is in your body. So the doctor's like, yeah, everything you're saying is true. Like, you need to keep him as a friend and keep in touch with him. But before I started all that, the doctor, his explanation was just like very, very vague and very, very general. And, don't worry, we can put you on the medicine, da da da. I said, Doc, if this gets really bad, will I have to get an injection? He's like, no, no, not really. Like, the medicines have come a long way, and, you're not going to have to inject yourself. So, like, I was just listening to like how he was explaining it, and obviously he's in a pattern of writing scripts. Like, this is the way you solve the type 2 diabetes issue. Now, I'm not saying per se that he's like in it for, we talked about this, Vin, like how it's like the diabetes, just that's one disease and how much money it generates for not only the medical community, the pharmaceuticals, like even the testing
Yeah.
stuff when it comes to testing your blood sugar. I think I just spent like $100 because I bought some extra test strips, which was like my wife picked them up for me. It was another $75. So you're talking like $75, like maybe more every month just to test myself. So
Mhm.
there are a lot of people and a lot of companies making money off of this type 2 diabetes. And I'm sure type 1, just a whole gamut. And just that
Yeah.
one little, um, you know, pocket of disease, or I don't even know if you want to call it a disease, but it's just like a money machine. So I've just decided that I can take control of, I'm just the type of personality, like, the doctor was like, we'll try it. Like, see if you can lower it. Like, he was kind of giving me the impression, like, you can't do it. So when somebody tells me I can't do something, that gives me even more incentive.
Yeah.
So,
So the doc threw down the gauntlet, right? And we're going to prove him wrong. We're going to
right.
prove him wrong.
I can't wait until I have this blood work in 3.5, 4 months.
Right.
Just can't wait.
Yeah. But you're right. What we talked about, just the money that's generated. And like I said earlier today, it's not just that, because the diabetes and the high insulin, it branches off into all these, because you get the heart damage and the heart disease and the people with the high blood pressure pills. And now it's destroying your kidneys because your kidneys are burning out, trying to regulate the sugar, and you're urinating all the time so your body could expel all this excess sugar. And now you have the kidney disease, your liver. I mean, God, the damage you're doing to your liver, right?
Right.
Um, and your liver has over 500 processes that it does within the body. So if your liver's not working right, it affects 500 other different situations, right? If the liver's not doing its job the right way. So again, it's 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 uh it's not just an isolated, well, I have high blood sugar, so I just have to bring that down a little bit. You're affecting everything. And that's why you have to have that sense of urgency. I have to reverse this because I don't want this and I don't want that. And I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want it to branch off and just get totally out of control.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so I'm really glad that you reached out, and we're definitely going to do this. I'm going to be here with you, every step of the way. Um, and guys, everybody out there listening, um, if you hear us talking right now and you think, well, you're just a couple of quacks, and the way to do it is, um, if there's anybody out there that could tell me that if you say to me, listen, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or I had a family member diagnosed, and they kept their lifestyle and their diet and nutrition the same, and they just took the medication, and after a couple of months, everything was all well and good, uh, then I'll eat crow and I'll say, okay, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about, or, I have no business giving anybody else advice. But I think that 99.9% of the people that I pose that question to are going to tell me no. They've just gotten worse and worse over time. Uh, and one last thing, Mark. So getting back to your doctor, and he talked about, you know, who's also a type 2 diabetic and is on medication. And he said, well, we normally, I want to give you this medication. How much of that conversation did you have that day? How much of that conversation centered on lifestyle changes and nutrition and what you were eating? Did he ask you at all about your diet?
Not really. Now that I go back and think about it,
Right.
you know, um, he was kind of in the mindset like this guy kind of knows what he's talking about. Sounds like he's getting like excellent advice. Let me just let him try what he's doing. Because I had told him, okay, I had lost like 6 pounds. I was already on a diet, but now I'm going to be even extra vigilant. So he was, I guess I said enough to him to make him just like, he wants to wait the 4 months until the next blood work comes in. And, he said he'll give me a call and talk about the results with me. But he really didn't inquire about anything that I was, my diet or what I was eating. But I'm not going to say like it was obvious by the A1C and everything that I was, you know, overindulging on sugar, but I think it's a little bit more than that. Now it's like, you know, I don't fully understand it. I know you can explain it better between your pancreas and the insulin and how it works and how it balances everything out. But whatever was going on, obviously my pancreas was not creating enough insulin to keep my sugar down. Is that correct?
Well, actually, we're producing at this point. The pancreas is still churning it out. But what happens at this stage is, I would surmise that you're actually spitting out too much insulin.
Oh, okay.
But over the course of time, it's going to get to the point where the pancreas is just going to, like, I'm out. I'm working too hard here. I
Right,
can't do it anymore.
right,
Um, and there are a lot of people in that position. And then that's where you get to the point where, because your body can't make the insulin, you have to start injecting it. So when you hear about people that are, I take so many units of insulin a day, um, as a type 2, um, because type 1 diabetes is a totally different animal. It has nothing to do with type 1, really. They
Yeah.
just had the only thing in common is the name. Okay. But really, what we're talking about here is, to your point, at some point, the pancreas will, the beta cells in the pancreas will crap out. And then that's when people will have to start actually injecting insulin,
Right.
you know. And the question I posed to you about the doctor asking you about your diet and nutrition is because, again, I'll say it over and over and over that it's a condition that we develop because of our nutrition and lifestyle. And to go to a doctor with that condition and the doctor not ask you, the first thing out of his mouth should have been, well, what is your diet like? You know what I mean? What do you drink booze? How much do you, how often do you eat a day? What do you eat? And at the very least, a lot of doctors now today, they'll have a nutritionist on staff, because doctors aren't trained in nutrition. When they go to medical school, they're taught how to give out pills, how to prescribe pills. They're not taught anything about nutrition. So a lot of doctors' offices might have a nutritionist, and what they'll do is they'll give you the diagnosis. Okay, Mark, you're a diabetic. Here's your prescription. Go take your metformin, and then go step into that office and talk to the lady behind the desk, and she'll tell you how to eat. And it's going to be, make sure you eat your whole grains, which are sugar. Uh, have your overnight oats, which are sugar, right? It really is insane, and when we've talked about it before. But anyway, my the point I'm trying to make is that it's just absurd how they you can go in and get diagnosed with a lifestyle and with a condition that's directly affected by your lifestyle and your nutrition, and you get zero advice on lifestyle and nutrition. It's just a pill, and that's what would have happened if you agreed with him the other day and said, okay, can I have the prescription? And you ran down to the pharmacy and you took your pill, and you would go home and you would have made yourself a nice big pot of rice, got a couple of buttered rolls, and just went on with
Right.
your day. And
Right.
you would say,
Right.
well, I'm taking my pill, so I'm going to be fine, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So, all right. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you coming on and telling your story. And I appreciate everybody being here. Frankie F16, Jacked and Stoic, my man. Thank you for being here. King Fire, peace to you, brother. Mr. Thompson, good to see you. David Jones, as always. I appreciate all you guys. We're going to be back with Mark, without a doubt, in three, about 3 or 4 months, right? We'll get some blood work
Yeah.
done,
Yep.
and we'll let you know exactly how he makes out. We'll give you his numbers, and we'll see how he's doing in that time. So, all right, brother. Thanks again. I
Thanks, man.
appreciate you being here, and everybody else, thanks. Make sure you get your reps in. Always appreciate you guys being here, and we're going to talk to you in the next one. Thanks, guys.
All right, bro.